Thank you for tuning in to our Class 2A Sectional 36 preview exclusively on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Welcome back to the Central Indiana Sports Report, high school football fans, and welcome to our Class 2A Sectional 36 preview. Coming up, I'll reset the Sectional 36 bracket after a wild week one of the postseason last Friday, and I'll give you the top storylines from Sectional 36 after the opening round. Then Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader and I spoke with the Kokomo Post Jay Stevens, Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson coming off a wild win over Alexandria last week, Eastern head coach Josh Edwards, and Tipton's Aaron Tolle as they go head-to-head on Friday. Then Grant, Michelle, and I will reconvene and make our predictions for the sectional. Please do us a huge favor and share this podcast with a football fan in your life and hit that like button. I know it's really stupid. No one likes to hit the like button, but it really does help spread the podcast to a wider audience, and that's very important at this stage of our development. And if you love Central Indiana sports, you probably just want to go ahead and subscribe anyway. We also previewed sectionals 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, and 27, and predicted the champions in all of those. And on Thursday, Michelle, Grant, and I previewed and made our predictions from all of the games across Central Indiana in the sectional semifinals, week 11. We'll also be back on Friday night with our high school football scoreboard show sometime around midnight. Then on Saturday, we'll debut our part 2 of the scoreboard, the aftermath, a conversation with local media and coaches about what happened in the sectional semifinals. And in sectional 36, the semifinals are number 5 Eastbrook against number 10 Rochester, and number 13 and defending champion Eastern against Tipton. Everyone has heard by now how Eastbrook beat Alexandria 37-36, needing miracle after miracle and big play after big play from quarterback Bodie Howell. That made Eastbrook 10-0 for the 10th time under head coach Jeff Adamson. Rochester beat Elwood 44-0 last week and has won 8 straight and has given up just 41 points all season with 5 shutouts. Eastbrook and Rochester actually played a 4-game series in the early 2010s, with both teams winning twice. Eastbrook won the only postseason meeting 48-20 in 2018 on their way to the state finals. Eastbrook has won 16 sectionals under Jeff Adamson, but none in the last 6 years. Rochester's last sectional title came in 2000. Eastern and Tipton played in the sectional championship game last year. This year they meet in the semifinals, and it should be another good one after the Comets beat the Blue Devils 21-15 last year. Both had easy wins last week. Tipton 48-13 over Wabash, Eastern 53-7 at Blackford. The Comets have won 6 in a row since their only loss of the year, 21-20 at home against Taylor on September 12th. Tipton and Eastern have played 4 times, all in the last 15 years. Eastern, like I said, won 20-15 in the championship game last year on the way to their first ever sectional championship, and has eliminated the Blue Devils the last 2 years. Tipton's last sectional championship came in 2020, and with a win, it would be the 150th career victory for Tipton head coach Aaron Tolle. Please stay tuned for Jay Stevens of the Kokomo Post. As we continue our in-depth preview of Sectional 36, we bring in Jay Stevens of the Kokomo Post. We heard from Michelle Garmon about the Tipton Blue Devils. Actually, we won't yet. Sorry, let me do that again. We bring in Jay Stevens of the Kokomo Post, and here with me I have Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune here to do a little bit of preview of the Eastern Tipton game. And Jay, I think Eastern, edit. Eastern is the defending champion, and I think they're better this year than they were last year.
Yeah. I think that Coach Edwards would say the same thing. Some of the players on the team right now would say something similar. This team right now is playing some pretty good ball. They scored 50 plus in their current 6-game winning streak 3 times. You could even go back to the loss against Taylor. They could say like that wasn't their best ball. They played not their normal brand of football that they want to play. And over the past few weeks, they've been trying to get back to being physical, being very fundamentally sound on their zone blocking scheme and the spread offense, and being very physical on defense. And that helped them a week ago when they beat Blackford 53-7 in the first round of Sectional 36. And this weekend, I was at that game last year, and I remember the scene from the Eastern fans right before that final interception, I believe, that Tolle threw before Eastern ran the clock out. That team must have had that same feeling again. But to get there, you have to win this game that's coming Friday, and it's going to be a tough game for both teams.
Yeah, it is. Jay, if you remember last year's game had the crazy play of the fumble down at the goal line and all of that, and then the blocked punt that they pick up and return for a first down. It was just crazy there at the end of the first half that Tipton appeared they were going to go win up 2-3 scores at halftime, but they didn't. Eastern scores, and it took all that momentum, and then they carried it. And then I thought the running of Pickett in the fourth quarter was really good last year. Tipton had done a good job of through 3 quarters of bottling him up, but he just, those fresh legs, big strong back, he just kind of took over in the fourth. But you say Eastern is a better team, and I will agree with you there. Tipton's a much better team than what they were a year ago as well.
That's true. That is very true. You mentioned Pickett in last year's game, and this year he was banged up a little bit, and I was following along this year, and I'm trying to figure out why is he not getting the carries that he normally gets. And I talked to Edwards about it, Coach Edwards, and he was kind of banged up, and they were just trying to protect him as much as they could. There were some very winnable games that they weren't going to need him to get some heavy carries in. So they said, no, let's keep his feet loose. You let him get some run just a little bit, but not try to overuse him. And I think as bad as that injury was, the injury happened against Taylor, that was the one loss this year. Him having to deal with that and recover and be very, very slow with his recovery kind of helped him save and not get all the wear and tear that you would get between weeks 4 to week 9. All of a sudden, now you have a back that's maybe in midseason form, heading into the sectional semifinal game against Tipton, where I do think you have to lean on him a little bit more early in this game than you did last year to kind of set the tone and the physicality, because if he gets rolling, he is very hard to slow down.
And I said Tipton is a better team. I don't know that defensively they are quite up to last year's level, but I know defensively they've just gotten better week after week here lately. But offensively, I mean, they now have 4 legitimate receiving threats, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. They have a couple kids that can catch it out of the backfield. They haven't a whole lot, but I mean, if necessary could happen. And they're also like a running back by committee. They've got three kids, not counting Tolle. I don't count Eagle either for Eastern because a quarterback is going to run that. But they've got 4 running backs or 3 other running backs that can carry the ball and all kind of bring something to the table. I'm looking for an exciting game.
Yes, I am too. There's one little nugget that's kind of on my mind now, and I haven't talked about it very much. Abe Edwards has not been playing, and I wonder if he's able to play this week. I haven't talked to Edwards about this, but he's not only their leading tackler, he's a big part of their run game too. And you put that big boy back there, the H-back, move him around a little bit. He opens up holes, and a lot of defenses don't have an answer for a guy of his size when he's coming at you and you're in the second level and he's trying to create a hole for his back to get 10 to 15 yards. So that's a part of this game that if you were healthy, I think Eastern would feel more comfortable and more confident about their chances in this game. I'm not saying they don't feel confident, but you lose a guy like that, it's a two-way player for you. That's a pretty big absence.
Jay, Michelle, and Grant and I are going to be making our picks coming up here in just a moment. I'm just going to spoiler alert. I'm going to be taking the Comets. I'm pretty sure Michelle's going to be taking the Blue Devils. What do you think, Jay?
Oh, man. I'm taking the Comets because of Pickett. I've seen this kid, and Michelle, you have too. I've seen this kid when he gets going and he gets rolling, he almost puts daggers in the opponent, and not little daggers, but figurative daggers he puts in. It's like he punches it in over and over and over, and it's very demoralizing when he is able to get into the end zone. So I'm gonna ride the young man that has fresh legs, not really fresh, but fresher legs this time of year to help his team win this one.
And Greg's right. I'm going to take the Blue Devils, and I'm going to say this. And I told Aaron this earlier. Last week, and I know it was Wabash, but that is as sharp. That's as good as I've seen Quinn throw the football in 2 years. But he's a sophomore. I mean,
Yeah.
I sit there and I look, and I'm thinking, man, this kid can be the next 2 years. He can be really, really good. And granted, the offensive line, they protected him well, but even when he rolled out, I mean, his mechanics were so good. If he can have time and he remembers that his mechanics are good because he now has Dakota Garmon is kind of his go-to, but Isaiah Mahaney, Zach Ridgeway, sorry, has come on really big of late out of that tight end, and he's a target, and he's been catching the ball really well. And then they got the Aller kid that's a sophomore. I think if they can do that, then Tipton can become. They might be able to get some explosive plays, and I'm going to take the Blue Devils. They've lost to Eastern 2 years in a row, and there's some hungry kids, and there's a Jack Roach. I know he really wants to do well. He's a senior, 4-year starting lineman for the Blue Devils. He can be a difference maker too on the offensive line, and he's even been making some nice plays for them defensively.
All right, Jay. Other side of the bracket, wild one the other night. Are you edit? Are you a little worried about Eastbrook celebrating a little too long with that incredible win, going up against a really good Rochester defense?
Yeah, I think I said this the last time I was on with you guys. These are youngsters that are between 15 to 18 years old. And a win like that it's great. Great win. You're beating a team. It's dramatic fashion. All that's great.
Never forget it the rest of your life, of course.
Correct. But you might not forget it you might be in your head that following week while you're on the field in the second quarter, and you're wondering why you're down 10 points, and you never have imagined this happening at this point in the tournament. I am a little worried about that. It's a human element too. But Rochester is so good. They are so good. Look, being on cloud 9 on Friday night from the previous week could hurt Eastbrook.
It might, if their quarterback wasn't Bodie Howe.
He's insane.
The most dynamic player in this tournament.
He is insane.
He's a threat to score every time he has his hands on the ball. And on offense, it's every play because he's a quarterback. He returns punts and kickoffs for touchdowns, and he plays in the secondary on defense. And if you make a mistake and you throw his way, it's going to be a pick six.
It's wild that kids are able to have that much energy and they're able to keep their mind locked in the entire time. And I saw this last year against when Taylor played North Judson. Forget the kid's name, but he was their quarterback. He played in secondary, and you couldn't stop him. He was just a man that was lit on fire. And every time the ball on offense, he made the right play. A lot of handoffs too, don't get me wrong. Defensively, you throw the ball, he's right there to make the right play. And so I'm just amazed at the athletic accomplishments of these young men because they're fun to watch.
And all honestly, as we get to our picks here with Michelle and Grant, this is a sectional that any of the 4 teams left could win for sure.
That is true.
Jay Stevens, Kokomo Post, thank you so much for your time. Make sure you listen to Jay's segment on sectionals 12 and 27 as well. Thank you so much, Jay. Michelle and I spoke with Eastbrook head coach Jeff Adamson on Wednesday evening and asked him about a wild 37-36 win over Alexandria on Friday.
The whole thing's kind of taken on a life of its own, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. It's unreal.
In all your life, you ever seen anything like this? The media attention, the kind of buzz around it.
No, really haven't. It was a little bit awkward going to school on Monday because that's all anybody wanted to talk about, and then even before the end of the day on Monday, it had ended up on Pat McAfee
That's
and
right.
ESPN, and just kept growing. It felt like.
Hey, Jeff, because of that, the media attention, the interviews, Pat McAfee's show, Kyle Netter interviewed Bodie and everything. Are you less concerned about them being distracted from what happened this year? Because, like, Bodie, this is a veteran group. So is it easier, do you think, for them to keep things in perspective this week?
I think you ask a very interesting question because that was our discussion Sunday night at our coaches meeting. We always meet Sunday to prepare, and it's kind of an unusual thing because it's so big that you want the guys to be able to celebrate it and enjoy it and really live in it. And I think something funny happened on Saturday when we were watching the film together with the guys. It was like any high school kid, anytime there's a big play, the course of the game, whatever, they clap or celebrate a little bit. But when we got to the final segment of plays there at the film, just everything got dead quiet. And then we went through all that, and it was almost like a sigh of relief. It wasn't a, hey, oh my gosh, guys were smiling and they felt good about it, but it wasn't celebration. I think everybody understood that two important things. One, that series of events was incredible, but if everybody also kind of felt fortunate to be able to move on. Nobody felt like we played our best in the second half, and you realize how fragile tournament play is at that point. And the last thing everybody realized, we got another game to play. We got to get ready we can't keep talking about this. We got to focus on Rochester.
Jeff, one more kind of thing on last week's game, and then I'm going to move on to Rochester with you. But when we did our sectional predictions, I picked you guys to win the sectional, and I picked it because I said I believe you have the most dynamic player in the sectional field in Bodie Howe. And I even told Aaron that on Friday. I said, no offense, Aaron, but I said I got Eastbrook winning the sectional because they've got Bodie Howe, a senior quarterback. And I said Quinn could very easily be that kid. But tell me how special Bodie is, because
Did anybody pick Alexandria?
Oh, yeah. Greg picked Alexandria. He was silly. Tell us what makes Bodie so special.
I told him on Saturday after everybody had left, he usually sticks around. We watch some film of our next opponent. And I said, Bodie, that is the most incredible individual performance that I've ever seen at any level. Your play in those 5 plays was absolutely the most incredible thing that I've ever seen. And the first thing he said was, but there were so many other people involved. You mentioned Matt Slater making the Hail Mary catch, Miles Brown making a catch in overtime. He mentioned Mason Sanders and a block he had on the 2-point conversion. And I think this speaks volumes about him. He is almost embarrassed by the amount of attention that he's getting, and he's embarrassed because it's not going to the rest of the teammates who all contributed to that. But at the same time, I agree with what you're saying. He absolutely took over, a 5-play span there where it was almost like nobody else was on the field because he was dominating the focus of what was going on. It was just unbelievable.
Behemoth performance, just incredible.
In the film, he's what, 6'1" and something. But I'll tell you what, on that film, he looked like he was like a college junior out there playing with high school kids. I just couldn't believe just how big and strong and fast he looked.
He's had different plays through the course of the year where you think, oh my gosh. And I think, but on that, on those 5 plays, there was just something. He is so unselfish that at times I've told him, you have to, there are times where, whether it's an option play or whatever, you're the best player on the field. You need to take the ball. And he did something. I don't think you can notice it on the clip. I've only watched it once, but he got up after scoring the touchdown in overtime, and he gave a signal that we use a lot of no huddle calls, and so there's different signals. And he gave a signal to me that means run the same play over again, run the same play. And so I'll be honest to tell you, I didn't make the call in overtime. Bodie did, and called his own number, and it gives me chills even thinking about it, because I knew when he did that, he's going to score. I mean, he's just, nobody's going to kick the kid out of the end zone who believes that strongly. And that's kind of, I think it becomes infectious, with the other guys. And I think he's such a good teammate that nobody around him holds him up above everyone else or anything like that. He's just one of the guys, and he likes it that way.
And Coach, you're going to have probably just as big a performance next week, because it's another really good opponent in Rochester, a team that gives up about a touchdown every 2 weeks.
They're really good, man. You don't see too many 2A teams that have such a great balance of size across the offensive defensive line. They've got 4 guys that are between 240, 230, and then they combine that with a great deal of speed in the skill positions. Their linebackers and their secondary, incredibly fast, athletic guys. And of course, all those guys are playing offense too. So they're really good on both sides.
Yeah, as I was doing the matchups today, they're pretty balanced running back wise. I think, right? They have like 5 guys that can carry the load.
Yeah, they had a transfer, a kid move in from Caston that kind of made that even better. They're running an offense similar to us. They've got a fullback and two slot backs, and so they distribute the ball among those 3 guys really well. And they even rotate a couple other guys in there as well. And they're it's like they're allergic to dirt, man. They just don't go down. You see so many times where they get hit and a hand on the ground pop up and keep getting yards. It's a pretty tough physical team.
Coach, this Coach, this season's been too special for it to end now, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the mindset of the guys right now. And certainly the emotion of last week's win, it feels like it's spilled into practice, and hopefully it'll carry into the game on Friday. You watch enough sports, it happens beyond high school, certainly, where something magical happens and it just kind of inspires them to play even better than maybe what they're capable of sometimes. And I hope we can be one of those stories where that same thing happens.
Coach Jeff Adamson, thank you as always for your time. Appreciate it. And I hope this weekend's exciting for you as last weekend was.
Hey, good luck, Jeff. Get your team in there and get a win. Stay healthy.
Yeah, and let's not wait till the last 9 seconds of the game to do that.
Hey, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
Yeah, we'll live with it, but I'd like it to be wrapped up a little bit earlier than that. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thanks, Coach. You too.
Yeah.
Bye. As we continue our preview of Sectional 36 semifinals, we welcome back to the podcast Eastern head coach Josh Edwards, whose Comets host Tipton on Friday in the semifinal, a familiar foe, last year's semifinal opponent as well. Of course, Eastern, the defending champions, and they come into this game with 6 straight wins. Coach, welcome back. Your team is playing awfully well.
Thank you. I feel like we are starting to click on all cylinders now, finally. We had a little bit of a hiccup against Clinton Prairie offensively, but our defense continued their good play. And then last week, again, Blackford, they're trying to get things turned around, and coach is trying some new things there. But I really felt like our kids came into that game with the correct attitude, and that was just, we're going to go to work. We're going to focus on Eastern Comet football. We executed nearly flawless, to be honest with you, on offense. we had 2 drop passes, and that would probably be the only thing offensively that we did that we could have done better. We threw for almost 300 yards in the first half. Didn't throw a pass in the second half, but I felt like our kids were really, really locked in and focused in that football game.
Josh, when I was talking to Aaron the other night about the football game, talked about it was great for you guys to get your first sectional win, but it was a kind of a weird game. Kind of that fumble, change of momentum there right before half, and then Pickett played really well there in the fourth quarter. He just came alive. Do you think that some of those, especially with it being Halloween, do you look for any more of those kind of tricky, tricky things that could happen at this time of year?
Well, I hope not. You know what I mean? I think I don't know. It seems like this might be the first game I've ever coached on Halloween in all my years. So I don't know for sure. I'm not really into all that stuff as far as thinking weird things will happen. We'll just have to wait and see before I say anything or not on that. But
I bet you've
no,
coached lots of Friday the 13th, though.
Oh yeah, there's been plenty of those. Now I don't know, that seems to carry a little bit of weight on Friday the 13th, and definitely on full moon nights. Those are different, right? But so I don't know about the Halloween deal. We'll have to just wait and see how it plays out. Hopefully, it's just a normal game.
Josh, you've had a great year, but tell me really quick, looking at Tipton, how are they different? How do you think they're different from a year ago?
I think obviously Quinn has developed and matured as a passer. He's still very athletic and can do a lot of good things with his legs, but I feel like his arm is stronger. I feel like he's a little more accurate this year. I think some of his receivers have developed as well. So I feel like that area of their football game is better than it was last year, which is going to make it a challenge for us for sure.
Coach, last year on your way to a sectional championship, you beat Blackford, Rochester, and Tipton. So kind of a similar kind of path this year, starting with Blackford and then 2 really tough games to be able to defend your sectional crown.
That's what we've told the guys is every week it's going to get tougher. That is definitely the case this week. Our kids don't plan on being done with football till the middle of November, at least. So that's what we've talked about, and that's their plan, and that's our plan as a staff. But like you said, big challenge for us this week. We've got to definitely polish some things up, clean some things up on both sides of the football. Special teams wise, I'm very happy with our special teams. They've been outstanding, really, since we had a couple blunders early in the year, but they've been almost spotless the entire season. So really our focus is, we know every week's going to be tough. We're hoping that if we are lucky enough to get through this week, we're hoping that Eastbrook and Rochester beat up on each other in that upper bracket there, and then soften them up a little bit for either Tipton or us, whoever makes it to that final game.
And I asked you about what was different between Tipton's team from last year to this year. Now I want to ask you, how is your team different? How is it? Where do you think your areas of growth have come over the course of this season?
Really, I'll be honest, we are not a whole lot different. We're faster than we were last year, a lot faster. We have more weapons on offense this year, but I feel like the biggest difference is our team maturity. Last year, we struggled at the beginning of the year with some leadership, and that's kind of was the reason for the 1-4 start. And then once those kids who were in those leadership roles kind of stepped up and got things pointed in the right direction is when we started to play really good football. And I think that's been the difference this year, as opposed to why we're 9-1 going into this game rather than 6-4 like we were last year, is that our football team's a lot more mature and we've had consistent leadership throughout the season.
And we continue our preview of Sectional 36 semifinals with Tipton head coach Aaron Tolle coming off a big win over Wabash. And now it really gets going, Coach.
There's no doubt about it. I don't think there's any doubt our sectional is one of the toughest in the state, regardless of class. And we've narrowed the field from 8 down to 4. And I think everybody left is a good football team and is capable of winning. So it's going to be a matter of who shows up on Friday and plays the most physical and probably mistake-free football.
We talked to Josh a little bit ago, and I asked him what the difference was, what he thought the difference was for Tipton from last year to this year. And he said, one, he thought that Quinn has developed into a better passer, and that you've developed more weapons to give him passing game. And I know you and I have talked about this for like the last 2-3 weeks of how you've just developed a lot of weapons in your offense. It seems like every week you just have more kids that are threats.
I guess that's kind of when we start the season, or when we start in the summertime, that's kind of the master plan. How many kids can we get involved in our offense? The more kids we have involved, the more difficult we are to defend. That's kind of my philosophy. So I think in the last month or so, we've made great strides. Like you said, I think Zach Ridgway is playing better than he ever has. I think Zay Mahaney is playing with as much confidence as he ever has on both sides of the ball. We've got multiple running backs, and Dakota Garmon's kind of become that go-to guy. So you take all those things and put them together. Hopefully we're going to be a tough team to play against on Friday.
You're offensive line, and I know you've had to do some patchwork fill-ins and different things with the offensive line, which no coach ever likes to do, because the best part about your offense is if you can get the same 5 guys starting together all year. But it looks like Friday night, now I know it was just Wabash, but I thought they did a fantastic job of blocking and keeping Quinn clean and giving your running backs holes.
I think a big part of that is we've got 3 returning starters from last year. Jack Roach is a 4-year returning starter. Nathan Hawkins has started for about 2.5 years now. Grayson Witherow, who I think is playing, he's another kid that's playing as well as he's ever played. But we returned those 3 kids from last year, and then we've had a couple sophomores that have stepped up. Unfortunately, Klauser got hurt, and we're going to miss him the rest of the year. Andrew Hawkins has been a great surprise this year. He's been very steady for us. And Will Wolford came back this year and has done a nice job filling in. So across the board, we've got a lot of experience, and they're playing at a high level. And we'll need to again on Friday.
And I ask you, what's the thing you notice that's different about Eastern that's maybe where they're better than they were a year ago?
I think maybe kind of the same thing. They had a sophomore quarterback last year. He's now a junior. I think he's drastically improved in both the pass game and the run game. They kind of have 2 go-to receivers that we're impressed with. Their skill kids are pretty good. But on the flip side, we also feel like our schedule has prepared us for teams like this. It's not the first time I've had to say that we're playing a team that has really good skills on the opposite side. So I think Hamilton Heights, Twin Lakes, those 2 teams kind of come to mind of teams that are similar, that have multiple players that can hurt you. So very impressed with them offensively, and they do a nice job defensively too. So they're a good ball club.
Yeah, we've talked about it before, you and I know your dad would always said the same thing, that week 2 can be the hardest one to prepare for in the sectional, just because, you had the excitement of week 1 and then you're actually playing for a championship in week 3. But the fact that does it help that it's Eastern this week? Because that was a game that kind of
Does it help that it's the team that's knocked us out of the tournament the last 2 years? Absolutely. Our kids, to be honest, as soon as the draw came out, it was fairly obvious what was going to happen, that week 2 we were going to meet, and I'm sure they have the same mindset that we do. But it's not going to be a problem getting up for week 2 this year.
And I know I'm not even going to look ahead for you to week 3, because week 2 is such a pivotal game, and I'm sure in the back of your minds, your coaches, you've kind of you have a plan for going forward, but I know you're all focused on this week.
Yeah, we haven't thought about week 3 at all. We've got a week to prepare for that if and when that comes around. So we've got our hands full with Eastern. We've been totally focused on them, and that would be awesome to be able to play in a sectional championship game again for the 2nd straight year. But we've got a lot of work to do before that happens.
So you're totally focused on your team. So I guess you haven't heard what happened in the Eastbrook Alexandria game yet?
I've watched that numerous times, and I've actually talked to Coach Harp over there, former Tipton grad, good friend of mine. Just I'm a big fan of both coaching staffs. Big fan of Jeff Adamson also. In my lifetime, I've watched thousands of football games.
I know.
And I don't think I've ever seen an ending crazier than that one at any level, high school, college, or pro. It was just unbelievable. Just all the different things that had to happen for the game to come out that way.
Crazy.
It was incredible.
He broke 5 tackles on the last play. It got called back, but if he doesn't break all 5 of those tackles, they lose.
Yes.
It's insane.
It was, like I said, it was one of the craziest innings I've ever seen. And then they had to turn around and they had to execute another last play. Then they had to execute a 2-point conversion, and then they had to win in overtime and went for 2. They had to execute that play. Kudos to them. What a great finish for Eastbrook. But I told Greg that just heartbroken for those kids, because I know they had very high hopes for this Alexandria team.
Absolutely. Coach, you have another one?
Aaron, I was going to say, perhaps, I guess, the best thing about the last 2 weeks for you and your team is with playing Benton Central and Wabash, 2 teams that have had not real good, but you've been able to play with the running clock, but played a lot of kids to where you guys, it gave your kids a chance to kind of get their legs fresh a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, but you're, in the back of your head, you're always like, well, our kids, I got to have my kids ready to be able to play 4 quarters too. You don't want to rest them too much and give them too much time off. So to me, there's a fine line. So we kind of went in the last 2 weeks and had a game plan, and our starters played the first half at Benton Central, and then we're done. We went a little bit longer last week. We went the first series, I believe, offensively and defensively in the third quarter, just to kind of, keep that feeling of coming out of halftime and having to take a 20-minute break and then executing right out of the gate. So, but I think, this time of year, anytime you can get your kids some rest, I think it can be a really good thing.
Back here at Stage 22 with Grant Shouse of the Action Sports Network and Michelle Garmon of the Tipton Tribune and Elwood Call Leader to make our predictions for Sectional 36. And we've already done this. We made our predictions on yesterday's podcast with Grant and Michelle, where we made our Week 11 picks. But what I want to do now is, since we're going to cover this sectional anyway, we have to, and my sectional championship is gone, I want to redo it, Michelle. Do I get to redo it?
You lost. You only want to redo it to help yourself to give yourself
no
a
points.
champion.
No points. This is just a prediction.
It's your platform too.
Right. I can do whatever I want. You guys both picked Eastbrook before the podcast in our preview. You're both sticking with that?
Of course.
And I've got to make a new pick, and I believe that it's going to be Eastbrook now. I think Alexandria, if they had won this game last week that they should have won, they would be the favorites in my mind now, but now I believe it's Eastbrook, and give me Bodie Howe and give me Jeff Adamson to win this sectional. Thanks so much to Michelle, Grant, and Jay. Also to coaches Josh Edwards, Jeff Adamson, and Aaron Tolle for joining us. If you like what you hear, please do us a huge favor and subscribe and share this podcast with a high school football fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is here talking about Central Indiana sports every single day. Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by ITG Media. And I love Susie.